Welcome to Liferay DevOps training. This is a training on Liferay University as well as here in the room. We are recording this with an audience of people, which means that everybody on video has a chance to hear some more opinions, because DevOps is, to be honest, not black and white. It's not right or wrong, but it's a lot influenced by policy. And I would like to actually know and encourage everybody on video to share their policies where they don't match what I'm telling you. Because it's not that I'm right and somebody else is wrong. I would actually like to know the whole bandwidth of installations and of policies. This might be the solution for you. That might be a solution for someone else. They have nothing to do with each other, but they apply to the current policy of a company. We are installing Liferay. We're mainly concentrating on Liferay, but covering a little bit of the infrastructure as well, as much as we need to get it going. And for that, we're using a bunch of different assumptions. And yes, of course, we'll make a choice. I will tell you, install it this way, but just to make sure, this is not the right way. It's just a right way, and it might not apply to your policies. So I'd be happy to hear protests. It doesn't work this way. We'll need to do it another way. Please help me with that. That is exactly what this course is for. The course used to be called System Administration in prior versions of Liferay, but right now it's DevOps, which first of all, adjusts to the current trends, that nobody's system administrator anymore, but the tasks that you have to do, the responsibilities grow, and you can adapt to all of these responsibilities. We will use Docker in order to work on this, to also follow the trend for containerization, and what I like most, to make this course a lot smoother for you. And I will tell you especially where this is something that I like, because comparing the installation instructions for Liferay, do this, do that, follow this step, and then maybe if you need it, do this, and so on. Those are so many steps that you can pay attention to, where you can just miss a single step. When you see Docker, in case you don't have any experience with Docker, when you see Docker, you will see this is the plain vanilla installation and these are the changes. And in my eyes, that's a lot better than giving you a long list of individual steps where you might miss step 7. I just say, this is the plain vanilla. These are all the documented changes in a short Docker file, and that brings you a Docker image. But enough about that. What are you about to experience? The slides that we have are catered for an in-person system administration or DevOps course. So you can safely ignore the day 1, 2, and 3 on here. We will first be installing Liferay in a web container. We'll have an overview what is actually required to install Liferay in a web container. In our case, we'll use a servlet container, which is, I would say, the most popular option for Liferay Tomcat. Open source web or servlet container that we can just distribute. Quite nice. And we're also, during this process, we'll also introduce how we run Liferay in Docker. And this is not the only way to run Liferay in Docker, but this is just one way. Another reason or another region where I'm really happy to take suggestions. What is the Docker file you like? I know we will take some shortcuts. There are options to make the Docker file smaller, for example. If you have experience in Docker, take that as your bonus exercise to tweak the Docker file to be smaller, to make it more efficient. We'll strive for clarity here, even for people who are not really used to Docker, and thus we'll take many shortcuts that you might not necessarily have in your actual production environment. Because I care for the concepts and not for the exact bit-for-bit exact solution that I can provide here. After we deal with Tomcat, we'll ignore it for a while and we'll install Liferay on an actual full-blown EE server, Java EE server, and for that we have chosen Wildfly. Why? Because we can distribute it, it's open source, and It's just distributable. However, Liferay, as we'll cover there, will run on a bunch of different application servers. We can point you to the documentation for your application server, and then you can also configure your exact application server with it. Our example goes with the open source world with Wildfly. And we'll have a long chapter about configuring Liferay to your needs, about covering all of the individual configuration options. We'll also take care of high availability or covering more load. If your server isn't enough to cover all of the load of all of the concurrent users that you have, you'll be happy to know that you can cluster Liferay with 2, 3, 4, any number of machines, and we'll cover what you need to do there, all of the principles of clustering. We'll introduce the reasons for clustering. First of all, load distributions. Second of all, high availability. Have half of your machines go away, the other half still keep your business up. That's what we want to do there, with a bunch of different aspects, as it says here, quite detailed session replication versus affinity. And we'll also cover a few business continuity strategies. I'll be sure to give you my definition of a backup. And if you learn anything, then if you talk to me, there is a particular definition of backup that I'm really, really, really insisting on. So pay attention to the backup chapter. We'll continue the clustering server with all aspects of clustering Liferay, and we'll build a 2-machine cluster of Liferay, which will basically bring us through the day. And as everybody here that I'm seeing here has only brought 1 notebook, that's quite plenty for 1 notebook to run 2 Liferay instances there, and Elasticsearch, and a database, and an LDAP server, and is there anything else that we run? And a proxy, reverse proxy. So we'll run a full data center on your notebook, and I think a cluster of 2 machines is enough. That is because we only have 1 concurrent user anyways, and that's you, and you. We'll continue with a discussion of some cloud options where you can where and how you can deploy Liferay in the cloud. That's a rather short chapter, and we'll cover what I have mentioned already, LDAP authentication. In an abstract way, we'll cover single sign-on systems, because I didn't bring a single sign-on system to this course, but I brought an LDAP server. So you will actually be connecting to an LDAP server in the progress of this course. We'll talk about hardening Liferay, about what you want to nail down, what you want to configure in order to make it really secure, and about monitoring, and in the end, also about upgrading and maintaining your portal. What do you do to keep it healthy? What do you do to bring it on to the next version? Or in our case, with the upgrade tools, with the upgrade chapter, we'll discuss what you'll need to do to bring your previous version of Liferay to the current version, which is 7.1. That's as far as the table of content for this training is. And with that, I would like to just start with the first steps into the Docker world, first steps into Liferay, and I'll promise we'll have Liferay running in a bit.